So before I start, I want to make sure that I acknowledge and thank the work that Renee has been doing on this farm, because she's fantastic and is just really committed. She's here all the time. She does a wonderful job. She's very conscientious and taking, I mean, we couldn't do anything without Renee. And so if you see her, make sure you thank her. And then also for Todd and Grant, because they're also, I mean, they're just full of enthusiasm. They just love this stuff, and it's just a delight to work with them. And I mean, it's what makes this fun. I mean, if you didn't have that trio there, I wouldn't want to do this for all the money they're paying me, which is nothing. So I guess I think the thing I like about this is that I also do work in Oregon and in Washington and British Columbia, so you get to see the big picture. You get to see how these varieties do down in Oregon, how they do in Washington, how they do up here, and you can kind of really start to piece together some of the things, and what's looking great in Oregon maybe look terrible up here, or vice versa, and you can sort of see some trends, and it's you can kind of get a picture of, I think, what to look out for maybe. And for example, in Oregon, where we've had some of these variety trots for a long time, you're getting 600-700 barrels an acre. They look good, and then after year 5 or 6, they start going down 25% one year, and then 20% the next year, and all of a sudden it's 400 barrels an acre, and then it's 300 barrels an acre. I mean, it's still good, but so those are things that we want to look out for here, and I think that's going to be some of the direction that we're set up. So on Bog 3, we have Crimson and D. Moranville on split down the sides. We can start looking at some of these management issues that look at things like fruit rot and timing and fertilizer. And so the way that they're designed hopefully will give us that opportunity. We're still kind of adaptive management here, sort of haven't really set down everything that we're going to do on those, but that's kind of what we're having in mind. But a lot of this it's your farm, so if there are issues that you think we need to be addressing that we're not addressing, or some ideas and opportunities, please let us know. Let Todd and Grant know, or Renee. I'm thinking, right now, for example, Rick tells me there's quality issues on some of these things, and he doesn't want to see a lot of soft fruit. Is that what he says, Rick?
That's what I said.
That's what you said. And so how long can we hold these things in the water after they're beaten, and start looking at some of those variables? How do they behave over time and under your conditions? So we want to sort of start teasing those out. We'll start doing some of that this winter. There's lots of other new varieties that Nick is producing, Edgar Ileski. So in bed 2, there's a whole line of stuff going down there, which we're just growing these things. We haven't even started collecting data on them. Those all look really great. Because I mean, Nick he's the best in the world at what he's doing, and he's promising us 1,000 barrels an acre in a little bit. So we're waiting, and there's really good stuff. I think the big issues now is what do we do with now Bravo, and how are we going to deal with that? So I think this farm sets us up for really doing some of those studies, particularly because we have a lot of these varieties that are maybe they're more prone to it. They certainly bloom out of sequence. It's so we're going to start working on that. Tipworm. I'm not an optimist about how people say we're going to have Movento or you're going to continue to have it. I'm not convinced, and so I think we still have to have some non-Movento options down the road in terms of tipworm management. So I think some of this, in the future, might be looking at Caroline plugged her ear. She didn't want to hear that. In terms of managing tipworm, so on beds, I think 3 you looked at those. It's just D. Moranville and Mullica on those. I think we'll start next year doing our fungicide fertilizer timings and looking at how to manage that for quality. And bed 4, it's was planted for Stevens to look at girdler. Turns out that we really didn't plant it with Stevens. We just planted it with some bunch of crap that is also known as Stevens. And so we're not sure what we're going to do with that, but we can really abuse it because it's not going to hurt Todd's feelings if we kill it. And I think so looking at some of these casseron issues and dieback issues that the industry is having up here, and maybe we can try to replicate that and see, and as well as looking at girdler management on that. But again, as I mentioned before, this is your farm, and so if you have ideas and you have problems, and it takes a while to set this stuff up. Research doesn't happen overnight, and it's a slow grind. And so the more direction and input we have, the better.